What about David Montgomery? Because David Montgomery, the thought was initially it was going to be surgery, and then they decided with rehab and all that he might be able to come back.
3 opinions on it.
Yeah, and the idea that, and it's been floated out there, and it sounds like he's going to give it a shot to play in the Lions' first playoff game, not this weekend, but the following weekend. What role do you envision him playing at this point?
I think he goes into a similar role he had before. They split carries. I don't know if it'll be an equitable split like we saw before he got hurt. I think what we've seen over the last 3 weeks with Jahmyr Gibbs getting the majority of the touches from the running back position because Montgomery's been out, he's been great. I mean, he's had over 100 yards rushing in each of the 3 games. He's been averaging something like 160 yards a game during that stretch. I think it's 165. His yards per carry actually went up 1/10 of a yard to 5.7 yards per carry during that time. So Jahmyr Gibbs looks like he can handle a heavier workload, but you don't have to give him that heavier workload because Knuckles is ready to go. So I think you play Knuckles, being Montgomery, but don't be afraid to lean on Sonic a little bit more than you have in the past when the two coexisted. So I think it's nothing but a positive here. It's another running back in a stable, and we like what Montgomery brings to the table. Guy who fights for every yard. He's the epitome of what Dan Campbell's talking about. Biting kneecaps and clawing and scratching, dragging into the deep water, the whole bit. He's that guy who's that tenacious when he has the ball in his hands.
My gut tells me, okay, and I guess it's more of a hunch than anything. I don't see them, you said equitable snaps the way it was before. I don't see that.
Well, I didn't say. I said
actually,
it won't
you did
be.
Say that.
Well,
I thought you said.
What I said is I don't think it's going to be like the equitable snaps like what we saw before.
I thought you said it was going to be. My apologies then. Because
no, I think you lean heavier with Gibbs.
To me, my concern here is the way Montgomery's running style is. He's so good in short yardage situations. He's such a powerful runner that the idea of coming off a knee injury, I mean, again, maybe he'll be just fine, but it feels to me like it would be the kind of thing that hampers what he does best.
It might, but if that's the case, then why play?
Well, and because I think he still could be better than Craig Reynolds. And I would see him assuming the Craig Reynolds snap count.
I know you don't intend it to be a dig at Craig Reynolds. I think that at that position, if you can't cut and do what you expect to do because your knee is hampered, then you probably shouldn't be playing. So, and I think they keep that in mind, and I think Montgomery's keeping that in mind. And look, he's got another almost 10 days before he's going to have to play, which is awesome because it's a lot of time to continue to heal up and go through the rehab that you need. And by all accounts, it sounds like he's ready to go. So he's only going to be stronger and stronger by that point. But if he's not ready to, then don't play him.
Well,
Reynolds and Vaki can handle it.
I guess I look at this as
Jefferson.
If David Montgomery comes back and he's 90%, I feel like 90% David Montgomery can handle the snap count of and the role that Craig Reynolds played. And you're right, it's not intended to be a dig at Reynolds. It's with all respect due to Reynolds, who is clearly very valued by this football team because he's that role player that they keep bringing back, and they love like art. It'd be great to have RB1, RB1B, and RB1C, like to have 3 guys, but somebody's got to be that next guy that is just happy in their role. You play them in their role. They do everything you ask when you put them in there. But I think David Montgomery's role would be more like Craig Reynolds' role, which was 10 snaps, 24 snaps, 23 snaps in the last few games. And I guess I'd have to look at Jahmyr Gibbs was 45, 37, 45. And it was pretty equitable. But I also love featuring Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, we talked about when David Montgomery got hurt, we actually looked at it. All right, it's a pedal down moment for Jahmyr Gibbs. It's time to unleash him on the league. We talked about how amongst the running back position, his yards per touch was top 5 or 6, but his total yards from scrimmage was top 5 or 6. But his snap count was about half, was half the snaps roughly. He was 53-something%, whereas Saquon Barkley, guys like that are like 80%, 75%. And so he might be low-key the most dangerous weapon out of the backfield in football, but he just doesn't have the volume that other guys do. And now we've got to see volume Jahmyr Gibbs. The problem with volume Jahmyr Gibbs is the wear and tear, the extra hits, and that can take its toll long term. So that's why it's great to have two running backs like they've had. But I'm not sure the best version of the Lions offense isn't with Jahmyr Gibbs getting the amount of snaps he's been getting.
Yeah, I would agree. But I think that the offense is built to have a couple of guys go through that to share the load so that you keep them as fresh as possible. And the way they were operating before the injury was just that, because Gibbs was getting 12, 15 carries a game, and Montgomery was getting slightly more. But it varied depending on the game and depending on what they needed to have done. But I'm looking at like Craig Reynolds the last 3 weeks, 8 carries, 7 carries, and 4 carries. He had 4 carries against the Bears when they were at Chicago. So those are the 3 games since Montgomery's been hurt. 19 carries into 3 games, and it increased a little bit each game. Is that what I expect Montgomery to get when he comes back? No, I think he gets double digits, but I don't. But what I think he does is maybe it's 10 to 12 carries a game, and Gibbs is still going to get the lion's share of it, though not as much as what we've seen. But it depends what they want to dictate.
Probably right? The most important thing here is that that we can't know. The variable that really will decide this is how healthy is he. Like, what is it going to be? David Montgomery at 95%, David Montgomery at 98%, David Montgomery at 80%.
There's that, and the other thing is what's happening in the game. If the Lions have a lead, like a decent lead in the game, then I could see them, okay, we're really going to switch it and make it 50-50 between the two, or really change it up and make it 33-33-33 with the third running back, because they just want to run things out, and they've been able to control the line of scrimmage, and they're getting 5, 6, 7 yards at a crack, and it's just one of these great Lion running games. There's a lot of variables.
I know it's a different injury, but it's weird because we just mentioned Alex Anzalone and how, hey, you probably want to ease him back. He's been out, got titanium in his arm right at this point, and then he misses one defensive snap and is a game record the entire game. He's very noticeable out there. I don't know if Montgomery's cleared to play and he's healthy enough to help this team, if he doesn't just go back to the role he had. But then we just saw Jahmyr Gibbs have a record-breaking day, and we know what he's capable of. We've been talking for weeks, Doug, how he may have just been unleashed now because he doesn't have anyone to share carries with. Yep. So, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I think it's going to be 70-30 Gibbs to Monty. But if he's fully healthy, why wouldn't they just go back to what was working before, Doug?
It's because that I don't expect him to be fully healthy, I guess. Because was it ever said that he will eventually get surgery on this knee?
I
don't think so. I think that was obviously an option, and that's why he would have been out for the year.
They were concerned. Yeah. I think the first opinion they got from a doctor was that he would need surgery, and that's why they went for a second opinion, and that guy said no, and then they went for a third opinion, and that guy said no.
Yeah, I guess the idea is, can he rehab it to the point where he can play it, and then in the offseason they look at the long-term way that they're going to address it, which could be surgery, I suppose, but that's just pure speculation on my part. I love giving teams the full-on Jahmyr Gibbs experience. I
love to see it too, and I think all fans love to see it. But I think everybody has the same feeling in the pit of their stomach. Please, God, don't get hurt.
Yep.
Because he is absolutely what he was when they drafted him. Yeah, what they said he was going to be, a weapon.
But we're at the point of the year where, everybody plays.
Do what you got to do.
You do whatever it is you got to do to win games. It's do or die. It's the postseason. It's a good problem to have. The good news yesterday was that Terrion Arnold was listed as day-to-day. That was a report was it Tom Pelissaro, Ian Rappaport? I can't remember who originally had that report, but I want to give credit where credit is due. But did report that with the negative X-rays and now Terran Arnold day to day, which given the fact that Carlton Davis, Dan Campbell ruled his return out, it's pretty damn important.
It's very important, and I was very happy to hear that yesterday. I mean, being day to day, and you still have 10 days or whatever before the next game, tells me he's going to play. He's going to be healthy enough, and that's great news.